The purpose of drafting is to create and reproduce accurate geometry. In this session, we're going to look at how to use the line command to draft some line work that has geometric value. Now, I've got a drawing open on my screen. If you'd like to open this drawing as well, such that you can work along with me, this drawing is located inside our Chapter 3 directory, inside the Exercise Files folder. And this drawing is called Number 2, using Ortho and Polar. Now, I've got a green rectangle on my screen. This guy represents our sandbox. We're going to be creating some line work inside this sandbox. And in the upper right-hand corner, I've got a small drawing that contains some dimensions. What we're going to do is try and replicate this geometry using the line command. Now, before we get started, I want to verify that our mode settings are the same. I want you to come down here, and I want you to make sure that all of your mode settings are turned off. They should all be gray. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to launch the line command. I'm going to come up to my draw panel and click the line icon. Then I'm going to come down and click inside my rectangle to start my line. Now, as I move, I could take and type a distance, but it wouldn't be very accurate because I really don't have any control over the angle of this line. Let's use one of the mode settings. I'm going to come down and click this icon, the third one from the left. This stands for Ortho mode. If I click this, it locks my movement to 90-degree angles. Now, if I take and pull to the right, I could type in a distance. Let's type 10 and hit enter. I have just created a line segment 10 units long, and it's drawn exactly horizontal to my screen. Let me pull down, and I can type in another distance. We'll say 5. We'll pull to the left. I'll type in 10. And then lastly, I'm going to right-click and select Close. Now, this geometry is much more accurate than what we've created so far. Let me create another line segment. Now that we've seen how the ortho mode works, let's try and recreate this drawing that we see over here. I'm going to launch my line command. Now, if you want a shortcut to going back to a previous command, we can do that by right-clicking and selecting Repeat Line. There we go. Let me pick a point on screen to start my line, and we can start drafting. I'm going to pull to the right and type 15 and hit enter. Let me pull down, type 7 and hit enter. Pull to the left, type 8 and hit enter. We'll pull down and type 2 and hit enter. At any point, if you make a mistake, you can always undo. I'm pulling to the left. If I accidentally type in 8, oops, I went too far, I can always right-click and select undo to back up through my sequence. Let me do that again. Let's hit 7, hit enter, and then I'm going to right-click and select close. All right, I'm going to pan my drawing to the left because I've got another sandbox over here. In this sandbox, I've got another drawing in the upper right-hand corner. We're going to learn how we can replicate this drawing. Once again, I'm going to launch my line command. I'm going to do it through the shortcut. I'm going to right-click and select Repeat Line. Let me pick a point on screen, and my ortho mode is still locked. That guy will remain locked until we go down and click the icon to turn him off. Now, sometimes the 90-degree increments are a little bit too far apart. Maybe I'd like to snap to an angle that's smaller than 90 degrees. For instance, I've got a couple of 45-degree angles right here. Let's look at another mode setting. I'm going to come down and click this icon. This guy represents the polar tracking, fourth icon from the left. Now, when I click this guy, watch my ortho icon. As soon as I turn on polar, ortho gets turned off. You see, ortho and polar are an either-or proposition. You can have one, or you can have the other, but you can't have both. Polar gives me more angle settings. Let's take a look. I'm still in my line command, and the polar mode is turned on. Let me move to the right. Notice Autocad snaps to a 0-degree angle. If I come down, it snaps to another angle. If I come over, it snaps to another. Essentially, it's snapping to every 90 degrees. Now, this is really no better than ortho. Let me show you how we can make an adjustment. I'm going to come down to my polar mode and right-click. Notice I have several angles I can choose from. Right now, it's snapping to every 90. I'm going to click 45, and now I'm still in the line command. My polar is now snapping to every 45-degree angle. Let's try and draw a square. I'm going to pull to the right and type 10 units, enter. Let me pull down. We'll type 10 and hit enter. We'll pull to the left, type 10 and hit enter. And then I'm going to cheat. I'm going to right-click and select close. Let's try and replicate this geometry now that we're using the polar mode. I'm going to launch my line command. I'm going to come up and click the line icon. I'm going to start right here. Now as I pull up, my polar mode or my polar tracking locks in that direction. We'll go ahead and type 10. Let me pull to the right, and we'll type 5. Now I can use my 45-degree angle. We'll type in a distance of 3 and hit enter. We'll pull to the right, type 3 and hit enter. We'll come down and type 3 and hit enter. This is how we can create a bay window. We pull to the right and we'll type 5. Now be careful with the polar mode. Ortho forces you to a specific angle. Polar snaps to angles. If I'm pulling down in this direction and I do not see that little ray, I don't see him snapped to the angle. If I type 10 and hit enter, I just drew my line incorrectly. So be careful of that. If you're drafting using the polar mode, you want to make sure that you are snapped to the angle. Let me back up. I'm going to right click and select undo to go back one segment. Let me pull back in a downward direction until my angle snaps. I'm going to type 10, hit enter, and then we'll finish this guy up. I'm going to right click and select close. As you can see, when combining the line command with the ortho and polar modes, we can quickly create accurate geometry on our screen.